I was so embarrassed with who I was. I mean, when I was overweight, I was wearing a sweatshirt every day. I taped down my nipples every day, like Scotch tape. Now they call them pasties, I think. Is that what it's called? I got made fun of for having man boobs. I'm like, what can I do to hide? What can I do to cover? That is the difference of mess to message that empowers everyone else through your story to go out there and do something that they never thought was possible for. Like literally that message in itself, you could go speak that all over the world and just talk about doing that one thing. And what's the one thing that they all have that they know that they need to do that's been sitting on their heart for 4 years, but they've never done it. And me.
Welcome everybody. Amanda Holmes here, CEO of Chat Homes International, and I am in Austin in the lovely home of Nicholas Bayerle, CEO of
Billion Dollar Brotherhood.
Billion Dollar Brotherhood. Is it CEO? Because you're also partners with your...
Yeah, she's COO, technically.
Oh, okay. Yep. Husband-wife duo. I love Nicholas's story. I actually met him on Clubhouse.
I know, random.
I know, but everything he said, you could just hear that the words coming out of his mouth, it was as if he had picked up my father's book. I thought, oh my gosh, he must have read Ultimate Sales Machine. He's brilliant. And he's speaking from actual knowledge. You could tell that he's figured it out from working in some business. So I followed up and said, what do you do? Who are you? Let's be friends. I just kept telling him we needed to be friends on Instagram DM. And I love your story, having worked in a family business as well. So you started off in your father's carpet cleaning company, right? And didn't know if you wanted to leave or not, or if that would be your future, but you made that leap. And in his first month, he made $26,000 and then has gone on to sell multi-million dollars worth of
coaching, online business, all across the board, from in-person events to masterminds to coaching, digital products, and also service-based business as well. 4 different companies that have done really well.
It's wonderful. Featured on Forbes and Entrepreneur and a #1 podcast. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know I've been on there. It was lovely. He's wonderful at asking questions, really dives much deeper. So I want to dive into this mess to message. Can you tell me where this started?
I'd been married for 3 years at this point, never made more than $3,000 in a month. Carpet cleaning is my main source of income. I had lost 60 pounds. I had hired a trainer. I had invested money. I'd figure out ways where I could lose the weight while eating meat and potatoes and the things that I enjoyed at the time. And I didn't work out that much. I'm like, I starved myself to lose weight. And I told myself, well, now you can't promote your transformation because you didn't do it with your program. You lost weight the hard way. How can you promote that? I was so embarrassed with who I was. I mean, when I was overweight, I was wearing a sweatshirt every day. 110 degrees, I'd wear a sweatshirt. I taped down my nipples every day, like Scotch tape. Now they call them pasties, I think. Is that what it's called? Pasties. But I used Scotch tape every single day where I had blisters all over my chest because I got made fun of for having man boobs. So I'm like, what can I do to hide? What can I do to cover? So I'm going through this struggle. And I'm so embarrassed that even with my wife now of almost 9 years, when we were engaged, it was the first time she saw my fat photo. Wow. I wouldn't show it to her, but she finally pulled out my license. I remember going to my mother's house for the first time. I ran inside first and I ripped up every photo and threw them all in the trash because I just didn't want her to see who I wasn't. And I didn't think that the story was important. So I remember getting this phase where I'm like, I'm thinking about Eminem. I'm thinking about 8 Mile. I'm thinking about at the very end of the movie, this guy's so nervous that he chokes on stage. He's throwing up before he goes up there, to going up there and sharing everything that's wrong in his life and being like, I don't care what you guys think about me anymore. I'm just going to share everything out there. And it did the exact opposite of what he thought it would do. He thought if people knew me better, knew who I was, they would probably reject me or my story won't matter. He went up there. He shared his story through a rap, made everyone out there connect with him over all the other people that they didn't connect with anymore. One of the ways he did that was everybody in the 313. He set an area code that he still lived in, and all the successful rappers, they no longer lived in that area code. They no longer related, because there's normally 2 reasons why people follow or buy from us. 1, they want to be like us, which is what everyone's flexing. This should be like my studio. Yeah, or $600 million client. We need these things because people are like, oh, like, I love that. I love that. Me and my son, right? We were like hanging out this morning and like doing all this stuff. I want people to look at that and go, oh, like that's awesome. I want to be like that. Yet if it's just that, then you're missing it's someone that you're just like, which is phase 2. They're like, I'm just like that person. One of my mentors, Cole Hatter, he talks about how he was a number 1 salesperson for Fortune Builders, and number 2 is completely opposite. Number 2 would wear the super expensive suit, $250,000 watch, and he would say things like, you know how much this watch costs? It's a $250,000 watch. And like, that's an anchor, right? It's like, oh my gosh, this guy's successful. He's someone I want to be like. And of course he'd then go to, but you know what's even more important to me? Change slide my family. Whereas Cole, if he didn't even need to wear a suit jacket, like he'd show up in Chuck Taylor's a t-shirt and he's like, hey guys, like I've done over 1,000 deals, which still he's done the stuff. And I've done this much money in real estate. And I'm just like you. I was literally sitting in the same exact seats. I'm wearing the same exact clothes. And I'm just grateful to have a mentor that taught me exactly what to do. And he was flexing that I'm just like you. I'm not going to change who I am to be different. Now, both of them are very, very important. So mess to message, how it came about, failing in business. I get invited to speak at an event, 40 people. And I finally had my Eminem moment. I'm like, you know what? Nothing's working for me. I invested $5,000 to be here. And then they asked me to speak. I'm going to go up there. I'm not just going to teach on health. I'm going to tell them that I was fat. And I'm going to tell them why I was fat, the emotions, the story, etc. So I go up there, like, oh, this could be perfect. I start talking about this moment in my life, that the straw that broke the camel's back, when my dad told me I'd never be the best motocross racer in the world. And I literally gave up on school, didn't talk to my dad for 3.5 years, gained 60 pounds, gave up on life. And I start bawling in front of everyone. 40 people that are everyone's more successful than me in this room. They almost didn't let me pay the $5,000 because I was so broke. That's when you know you're broke, is when someone refuses to take your money because they feel bad for you. So we're in this room and I'm sharing and I start bawling. I'm so frustrated. I'm so mad because I'm like, I'm not giving them value. I'm embarrassed. My wife had never seen me cry ever. And my wife has to come up and help me finish the talk. And I feel this emotional hangover, this vulnerability hangover. And I'm like, I just screwed up. Like I lost my opportunity to share. And meanwhile, there was more fit people in the room. There was people that didn't have a fitness business that were more fit than me because I lost 60 pounds, but no one could see that. But there was actually fitness people there that were more fit than me. And I'm like, your body's your billboard. They're going to go with them over me. Well, all of a sudden I leave there and like 10 people are like at the 40. I don't even know like really how to approach them or anything. I'm just embarrassed at this point. They come up to me like, man, I love what you said there. And still to this day, that event that runs still talks about the spot that I stood in when I cried, that brought the entire event all together from that moment forward. That's when everything changed. Anytime someone cries, they talk and anchor that moment. And I left there and 9 out of the 10 people, literally without trying, were like, yeah, whatever your package is, $3,300. And this was like, I was short selling. I was like, I feel bad. Like I'm an idiot. I just said like it's $3,300. Like, oh, sweet. Let's do it. And I leave there. And that's when we did about $26,000 in sales. And I'm still carpet cleaning at this point. So I call my dad. It's my anniversary. And I have a week off. And I go, Dad, like I have to go all in. And I was so afraid that it was a fluke. That it was like, I got all these sales, but maybe it was just something I can't replicate. I'm going to have to go back to my father. And ever since then, we haven't had a not profitable month since that month. And that's when I realized a few things. My story was important. I told that story about my father, and what ended up happening is every person in the room could relate to some part of the story, the failure, the opposition. Yet for all the fit people that were there, everyone looked at them and said, oh, like they're just at the result. They're just fit. For me, they're like, he has the same emotional struggles with food, with working out, not knowing how to work out, all these fears and insecurities, the same ones that I do. And he overcame them or got the result even with them. So I want to work with him over all the fit people. So I started, I'm selling clients for $7,500 for health transformations. Meanwhile, Mr. Olympia is selling a $20, $200 program. And he looks amazing. And I just looked like a kid who was skinny and didn't work out. Ultimately. And I started realizing that my story mattered. Second one was that my story was good enough. Second thing that people run into, they go, Nicholas, like you lived in a 400 square foot apartment with no AC and like we're living on credit cards and failing your wife and all these things. They're like, I didn't really have that issue. Like my wife would even get mad at me because I was so broke. Like I was stuck in a different country at one point and like I couldn't get home and I had no cell phone. She's like, I wish I had that, because she had amazing parents that have been married for almost 30 years and she had like a college fund and all these different things. And so I had all these amazing stories of all these crazy things that would happen. And she's like, I don't have that because like I just dip into my college fund and like pay my way out of it and like all these different things. And what I noticed is that your message is also uniquely yours. That my message doesn't relate with certain people, but my wife's message relates with people that I can't relate with. And she dealt with having to be perfect all the time because she didn't want to be a problem to the family. I'm like, that is your mess. And she was able to relate to all these people that like she didn't think that she could ever relate to, or she thought that my story, because it was big, because it was so dramatic, that it was important. But think about this with money or weight loss. There's always going to be someone who lost more weight than you. There's always going to be someone who's more fit than you. There's always going to be someone who's made more money than you, coached more people than you. So if we just look at them and go, well, I'm not as good as them, until I get there, I can't teach. But I have to teach people to get there. Like, it just would never make any sense. And I started realizing that my story is like a fingerprint. Like, I'm going to be able to reach people. People will want to work with me because it's me. And because the flavor. And so I started looking at problems differently. Like, people look at my weight loss. I used to hide it. All these different problems I had, taping my nipples down. I say that because people would never say that. People are like, oh, that's one thing I would never share. I'm like, no, like there's got to be someone else out there that's done that before or thought about doing it or done something similar. So I started looking at my problems kind of like if I was in Africa and there was no water. I need to find a spring or dig a well. 3 types of people. One person, when is someone going to find a spring or dig a well? Like, is someone going to bring me water, please? Like, I don't have any water. Will someone please bring it? Which is like no one that listens to this podcast. Second is the person that finds the solution. They dig a well and they go, I never have to deal with that problem again. This is me. Like, oh, thank God. Like, I have water. I'm never going to tell anyone, though, that I didn't have water. Like, I'm just going to live in my prosperity and I'm just going to be like, yeah, water is so great. Isn't it amazing? Come over to my house. Then there's a third person that goes, if I can figure this out, I can go and bring this solution to other people. And they dig a well. They find out how to create water, get that solution, and they go, okay, I had an issue. I overcame it, and now I can bring it to other people. And the biggest thing that I experienced, though, from that was my 8 Mile moment, was that every single thing that we're afraid to share, and even if this is in a small group with friends, is ammunition that we believe the world will use against us. So maybe you have something that you're hiding, something that you're not sharing with someone. Well, we will sabotage our growth, our business growth, our influence, because we're afraid that at some point people will find out about us, who we truly are, or something about us that we haven't shared, and everyone's going to reject us. And the reason why, it's the last piece of this, is what you do to get something is what you have to do to keep it. So if I were to get my wife to marry me based on, maybe I go, you know what, I should probably be the guy that doesn't care about money. You know, when I go to dinner tonight, I'm just going to buy everything because maybe that's what she wants. So I go to dinner, I buy everything. I go, every appetizer, everything. And afterwards, I'm not that guy at all, right? Like, let's just say I'm not that guy, but I go and do it anyway. She falls in love with that. Oh my gosh, I love that he does that. Then we get married and like, I have to sustain that person, that personality for her to stay in love with me because that's who she fell in love with. The thing about business back in the day is that you had to do that. If you were in New York or Pennsylvania, based on the geographical location that you were in, the income that they had, the things that they enjoyed, you had to create a company based on that demographic. So if they made $10,000 a year, you're like, I can't sell premium leather goods because they can't afford it. I have to do something cheaper. And if you're in New York, you could create the most luxury things in the world because the market was okay with it. Nowadays, you don't have to be someone that you're not, even though people will follow you and love you for it, just as you could fake on a date with a girl or a date with a guy who you are and they could fall in love with it, but you have to sustain it forever and it's super stressful. The same amount of people or more would actually love you for you and actually love your business for the message that it has, because now you can reach almost everyone in the world, not based on location. And when you speak that message out there, not only are people going to get connected to it, but it's easy to sustain it. Like my wife and I's relationship is easy to sustain because all I have to do to keep her is keep being myself. Whereas if I attracted her or my audience through being something that I was not, every time I show up to keep them, I have to continue being someone that I'm not, or else they're going to leave me. Whatever you do to get something is what you have to do to keep it. That's just the foundation of it. We go into a little bit of stuff of how people can actually utilize it practically or apply it into maybe some of their messages or how they're communicating to people, because this was the foundation of building the business. And it wasn't all about tears, and it wasn't all about just telling an emotional story. Every single thing that I teach someone that doesn't already believe what I'm saying should be done in a story, a practical experience, something that someone went through, so that they can come to the conclusion on their own without me telling them what to do. That's the goal of everything that I do. And before, I tell people, you need to get fit. The best way to lose weight is this. And if people already agreed with me, they were probably already fit. They're like, yeah, I agree. And all the fitness people are like, yeah, but you would never hire me. And everyone else is like, oh, yeah, I've tried that. I've tried this stuff before. It doesn't work. Or, oh, I'm not sure. Maybe not. But if I told my story about how I tried all these things and the emotional problems and how I'd go and eat the thing out of the fridge, and then I finally found this plan that sustained me, they go, what plan? Like, what is this plan? Like, I struggle with that too. Like, what is the thing? Because I'm not telling them to do it. They're going, I want it, through the story.
Wow. What a brilliant culmination of just living a smarter life. We talk about working smarter, not harder. And this is a brilliant way to work smarter, is just to be honest and authentic with yourself, and that truth will set you free.
I mean, you shaved your head in front of everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you didn't need to do that.
Yeah. No, I did it for me.
And it probably would have been easier not to. And possibly at the time better before there was an awesome story, right? Like now it's like a story. But at the time, I mean, Britney Spears shaved her head and it wasn't for a good reason,
Right.
So it's like, but again, it's like some of these things, it's who you are. And yeah, I think that things like that, if let's say someone left you guys or left your company or a follower left you or something because of that, it's like they only would have stayed because of that reason. Like it's almost a good reason to smoke out the haters.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you got to do things to smoke out people that you just like. It's like gophers.
You have to be confident to be able to let go of the things that aren't serving.
I wouldn't shave my head. I'm just telling you right now. I'm like, and
It was difficult.
was it?
It took me years to get up the confidence to do it.
How long did you think about doing this?
Probably about 4 years.
And like it just sat on your heart?
Yeah. So like all of my headshots I would take with my hair back, because I was like, I got to prepare them for when I won't have hair someday. Right.
Yeah.
I would think about this.
And you've told the story a lot?
No, I don't really talk about
Why not? Can I hear about it?
So, okay.
So you're pulling back your hair and you're like, I got to prepare people for when I'm going to shave my head.
Yes.
Why? Why shave your head?
So I had learned about it from my guru. So I have a teacher that guides me to be the best version of myself, to be the most authentic, uplifted person I could possibly be.
Yeah.
And when I inherited the business, I had hundreds of staff around me all looking at me going, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. What am I going to do? I have no clue. Mm-hmm. And then to derail from what my father had created to create my own thing was very terrifying. But I had to innovate. My business was running on, really old school technologies. And I didn't want the company that my father had built. I wanted it, if it was going to survive me, it had to be my own thing. So part of my shaving of my head was just to let go of everyone else's expectations of me and to be clean and clear and committed to myself. And every time I would look myself in the mirror, I would know I'm doing this for me. And holy cow, how amazing do I feel? How empowered do I feel? I shaved my head for 5 years. It was amazing. The liberation of just, and for me, it's also this connection of something higher than myself. Just kind of, my prayer was always, let me be a conduit of light and love. Please guide me. I want to be guided to do the best thing possible. So that was my commitment to myself.
So for years you wanted to, and then how did you feel when you didn't do it? Like you weren't doing it, like before you actually did it the first time? Was that like, were you upset at yourself even? Like, why am I not doing this? Like, does this mean that like I'm carrying around this thing where I want people's approval, or like whatever that thing was?
I still am. I'm back there. So when you said when that happened, so I've grown back my hair the last, like, this is like 4 months. I just got a haircut today or yesterday. And I thought, man, I really love having a shaved head, but so many people have a problem with it, right? So I still am there of just, I teeter back and forth between, should I have hair? Should I not?
Which is interesting, because if you just keep the head shaved, it could be now the challenge for you is actually to grow out your hair again.
Yeah.
Because that's actually harder now.
Well, then my guru was like, well, now you get so many compliments. Because I thought, like, shaved a head, you'd be like a leper in society, right? But when I shaved my head, I got more like, people would stop me in the middle of an airport. You are so beautiful. I'm like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
No makeup, haven't worn makeup in years, haven't done a hairdo in years. So she had said that I was too attached now to this image of what it looked like to have a shaved head.
Isn't that funny how that can happen though?
Oh my gosh.
So, and you shaved your head for how long?
5 years, yeah. Yeah, quite some time, yeah.
That is so wild. And so, and during that time, you like, why? Like, it was just because you're like, I don't want to care about?
Yeah, my commitment to myself and clearing away the belief system that it's about what I look like. It's not about that at all. I was looking to...
About what you look like for what?
For anyone else. It was just being as minimal as possible and being as true to myself as physically possible. So I've gone years with just wearing white, because there's a lot of decisions that you make in your life. You wake up and you have to pick, okay, this is what I'm going to wear. This is how I'm going to look. And then throughout the day, you're wondering, okay, is this how I'm looking? Is this okay? And I just said, I'm going to strip it bare as possible and just wear the same exact thing every day with the same color, so I don't have to think about it, so that I can utilize the space in my brain to make decisions that are more important than just what I...
So what's been the process of changing that now? Like, why'd you change again?
I have spent more time in my business recently and less time on my spiritual pursuits. Obviously, you can't completely take me out of it, but yeah, there's a little bit more there now.
Even right there, people could get to know you more. People can understand you more. Let's say someone were to see your old, fully shaved head photos, and they start wondering, why? Why did she do that? What's the story behind that? Or like, what happened, or whatever their story is that they're coming up with. Or maybe they've known you the whole time and they don't know what's going on fully. Now, when they hear the story, they understand you more. So now they have this like insight to build a deeper relationship with you personally, like trying something new like that. And for you, it's like everyone has these things that they're so afraid to try, yet just from you telling your story of even that is 4 years. If you just left that out, if you just said, I really wanted to shave my head for the spiritual practice and just to show people that I do not care what you think about me, and it's who I am and the skill sets I have and what I bring that's going to promote me, not my looks and my makeup and my hair and my whatever clothes and all this stuff. People would say, wow, good for her. She's so brave. But just because you didn't if you just left out for 4 years, I was afraid to do it, and it just sat on my heart and I knew I needed to do it. That is the difference of mess to message that empowers everyone else through your story to go out there and do something that they never thought was possible for. Like literally that message in itself, you could go speak that all over the world and just talk about doing that one thing. And what's the one thing that they all have that they know that they need to do that's been sitting on their heart for 4 years, but they've never done it. And maybe some people right there would stand up on stage and allow you to shave their head right there in front of everyone and give everyone breakthrough, because breakthrough is contagious. Some things are better caught than taught. I get around people not because I want to hear what they say. I want to catch what they have. I'm trying to pick up things that they have. I want to steal their breakthrough. They have an anointing or a breakthrough or something like that, a mantle in their life that's giving them breakthrough or expertise. I get around them because I'm like trying to soak it up. Like, give it to me. Give it to me. This is why if you learn from someone, you talk the same way. You have similar mannerisms. You didn't like study their mannerisms. Right. You just picked it up through being in the environment, the atmosphere. And so I truly believe that those types of stories like you just told, formatted in a way that's to build something or to point towards something specific, almost like a magnifying glass. It's not just tell every story. Right. To help random people do random things. Yeah. I went on a walk today and I didn't feel like it, but I did. So you should go on a walk today too. Pointless. But if it's all pushing towards one thing, building that company, for instance, Dream 100, getting people to partner with you, well then all of a sudden, it's now you could tell stories that would help people overcome those different things or get to know you better that makes them want to buy from you. Like I was scrawny and they wanted to buy from me. I had emotional problems with food and working out, and that made them connect with me. And each one of those, like your story you just told, that's why I asked the questions. It's just because I guarantee everyone here now knows you better and is inspired only because you told the truthful story. So never tell not truthful stories because they don't work. They don't work. If you skip one step. So all my client testimonials, the ones that hated me, they tell, oh, I started following Nicholas. I just thought he was a young guy who just copied what everyone else said. And I just said, I know there's a million of these guys. This guy's a total ass. Like I have a few of these. And then I went to one of his events or I jumped on one of his webinars and I listened to him and I was like, I've been in this guy's group for 2 years and I've literally never listened. They're like, I cannot leave here without buying. And I'm like, if you tell the story of a testimonial for me, you will never leave out that you used to hate me. That you used to think that I was a piece of crap. You will never leave that out because as soon as they do that, it messes up the message. Because there's other people out there right now that look at Nicholas and go, "Oh, she's just young. Like what's wrong with this kid? Look at him. Like whatever. Probably his dad's company, whatever." And I want people to understand that they're not alone. There's other people that have hated me too, and now they love me. So that authentic story is what's so important. Accurate, authentic is what gives the power to release the same breakthrough that someone else went through to other people. Whether it's your own breakthrough or a client testimonial, there's literally, you talked about spiritual stuff, there's literally like almost like a opportunity as if a meal was cooked and it's multiplied where everyone can take a part of sitting at the table and eating it. Like there's an opportunity for people to walk into that breakthrough.
Wow. Thank you. That was really powerful.
Thank you.
Well, we have anything else you want to say?
That was really fun.
Yeah. Not only did we talk about his message, but then the transformation of talking about mine as well, just live. And this has been such a beautiful organic.
And you even said you didn't. I was like, do you tell this story? You're like, no.
No.
I will say one last thing.
Please.
Vulnerability, authenticity. Oftentimes, let's say for giving, because you didn't shave your head for other people.
Right.
So telling the story for other people is probably weird because it gives you credit for something that wasn't supposed to give you credit. Just hard. Giving similar, right? They say, don't let your left hand see your right hand giving. Like no one should know about it. Not everything, but generally don't give for attention. Like don't give money away for attention, food away for attention. You're not doing it so people will applaud you. So what happens is that no one talks about their giving because they don't want to become prideful or boastful or do it for other people's attention. True humility is able to stay humble even if they're getting recognition for something that they did, which is one of the hardest things in the world to do. Because if you give without caring about anyone knowing and get to a point where you can continue that even if people knew, when you tell the story, it sets an example for everyone else. The problem is that no one talks about it. No one talks about it with pregnancy. Let's talk to that fertility. I go, no one told us. They always tell you, be careful to have sex because someone might get pregnant. They don't talk about people that have sex over and over again and struggle to get pregnant. So when someone doesn't get pregnant right away, they think they're broken because no one talks about it. But if people talked about it, then they would have an expectation, they'd have community, and they'd realize that they weren't broken and messed up. People don't have an example of people that give or people that have the strength to share things that could possibly give them credit. Because I know when I started talking about it, I go, oh, also, you didn't shave your head for anyone else. And people don't deserve to hear why you actually did that. You don't need to share it with anyone. But if you do share it, you're going to get a lot more of that recognition that wasn't the reason why you did it. But is other people's breakthrough possibly worth it? And is the true strength of humility the ability to stay in that place of not caring about the praise, even when you're sharing something that could be transformative for other people? Because that was helpful for me. But if you would have kept it to yourself, then it wouldn't have helped me.
It's a fine line. It really is.
I got to talk to your teacher. Your teacher's probably like looking at me going, no, that is not how it's going to go. We got to get both of us up here. I want to hear what they have to say.
I mean, she's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. But it really bothers me when we're on Clubhouse and people come on and go, I have to build my personal brand. How do I build my personal brand? I'm like, oh my God, can we stop talking about brand? Can we just, like, if you're trying to build your business, let's find you business, right? Our world has flipped to the ego that is so much about the presentation and less about the point of why you would be so vulnerable to share that experience with the intent to assist somebody else to have that transformation, right? Yeah. That should be where the come from is, instead of, okay, I got to check off the list that I'm building a brand and this is how it goes.
So I just sent a message, and this will be the last thing I say, I promise. Yeah, I just sent a message to a friend of mine that inspired me to be a father, even when I wasn't a father. So and this is what really got me to start sharing my message more, is this thought. This guy was a father that always tucked his kids in or FaceTimed them before bed. And I always thought, oh, that's so cool. And he always stuck to his commitments the best possible for his kids. So one time he's on the road speaking, selling from stage, and he tells his daughters before they go to bed that he was going to wake up and make pancakes with them in the morning. But he's in a different city. Flight gets canceled. Jumps in, tries to get a rental car. His license is expired or something crazy like that. He starts hitchhiking, literally gets in someone else's car. I think even ends up in jail and bails himself out and makes it home in the morning to be able to have pancakes with his kids. And he kind of corrects me on the story, but ultimately, like, that's what I remember from the story. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this guy did everything because he told his daughters that he would be home. And it got me thinking about social media, these influencers, and sharing mess to message. I thought, if he just never told me that or told anyone in the world that, he would still be an amazing father. I just would have been robbed of the potential of being inspired to be a better father. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, that's where people should come from in a personal brand or an influencer, is that if you didn't share it, you still have it. You still had the breakthrough. You still built the business. Like, this guy was still a phenomenal father. And if he just never shared it, he would have been fine. He would have still been a great dad. But because he shared that story, even though it possibly even gave him praise, right? Made him, oh, you're such a great father. Right? There's a lot of things that come with that. Him sharing that is what's caused me to be a better father now, years later, because I'm like, I'm always going to say goodnight. I'm always going to follow through. I'm always going to make time. And it was all because he shared it. So I thought that was something very, very valuable for me. So if someone's an influencer, it's like, if you're scared to share your story because you don't want the praise, which is one reason, or you don't want the flack, or you don't want the pushback or the hate, well, at the end of the day, you not sharing your story isn't actually robbing you really of anything, because you still get the breakthrough. You still lost the weight. You still built the company. You still did all these things. You're just robbing everyone else of their breakthrough. That's all. So if you're okay with that, then don't share it. But for me, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm only here because other people shared the story, even when it was uncomfortable. And that's what helped build my life. So I'm not going to rob that of other people.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And I'm sure you'll comment and give us some wonderful things about how wonderful Nicholas has been here with Mess to Message. How do we find you? Where do people find you?
Yeah, best place, Nicholas Bayerle on Instagram. Send me a DM. say something that you took away or whatever it was. And I would love to hear your takeaways. And then for the men out there, I have a Facebook group called the $1 Billion Brotherhood. It's only for men because it's just like what men talk about when there's no women present in the room is very different. I wanted to create a space for that. And there's plenty and amazing places for women to be able to do that. But I really hadn't found any places that I felt comfortable as a man to do that. And so that's called the $1 Billion Brotherhood, and they can request up and just let me know. And if they do, let me know. I want to send you my book, Modern Day Businessman, for free. Physical copy. I'll pay for shipping, everything. I've seen the transformation from people reading it. And so I'm trying everything in my power to build the business where I can send out. I've now had like tens of thousands of people grab the book. So I'm like, what can I do to be able to just get it into more hands? And so I make money for my business, so I don't have to make money from a book. So I use my own money to get in people's hands.
It's wonderful. Wow. Well, go get the book then. Most definitely. Nicholas, can you spell your last name for everybody? Because I don't, maybe we can put it.
Yeah, Bayerle, Bayerle, like Bayer aspirin with an LE at the end.
Perfect. There we go. Thank you, everybody. And thank you.
Thank you.